Chapter 4 Gibbons and Ghosts. I could no longer see the lights of the Peggy Sue. I was alone in the ocean. I knew that there could be sharks in the water. Surely I'd either drown or be eaten alive. I saw what I thought was Stella and swam towards her. But as I came closer, I realised that it was actually my football, which I clung onto to help me float. I hoped that my family would come back to save me on the Peggy Sue. At first, I sang 10 green bottles to try to keep my mind off the sharks. As I grew more tired, I felt my hand slipping off the ball. I dreamt of being rescued. Eventually, I woke up and found myself lying on a beach. Stella was with me, but I had lost my football. I called out for my mother and father, but the Peggy Sue was nowhere to be seen. I heard howling from the trees. Because I had been to London Zoo, I recognised the noise. It was the sound of gibbons, monkeys. I walked into the forest and found a track going uphill. I heard the noises of birds and other creatures. I felt like I was being watched. I was scared. But I made it to the top of the hill. This meant that I could see further out to sea. I scanned the horizon, but I couldn't see any boats. The island must have been only about 2 or 3 miles long. It was a place of extraordinary beauty, covered in forest and surrounded by sandy beaches. There didn't seem to be any other people on the island, but I was just happy that Stella and I were alive. If the gibbons could survive, there must be food and water. My mother and father would find me eventually. I decided to explore the shoreline. I saw what looked like coconuts on the trees, but they were too high up to reach. There were some on the ground, but these were all cracked open and empty. I couldn't find any stream of water. Again, I sensed that I was being watched, and the forest noises continued to scare me. That evening, I found a small cave and lay down to sleep, even though I was still hungry and thirsty. When I woke up the next morning, I found that I had been bitten all over by insects. I saw Stella up on the rocks above the cave, drinking water from a tin bowl. I saw another bowl, and then a tin filled with fish and red bananas. But who had left this for me? Who had been watching me? I called out, "Thank you!" But nobody replied, so I used a stone to scrape a message on the rock. "Thank you. My name is Michael. I fell off a boat. Who are you?" I played in the sea with Stella, but always kept an eye on the cave, where I hoped I might see the person who had provided me with food and water return. I found a sheet of rusted metal. Could this be from a shipwreck? Perhaps there were survivors from the shipwreck still on the island. Then I noticed a fragment of clear glass nearby in the sand. I collected some leaves and twigs, put them in a pile, and held the piece of glass over them, angling the glass towards the sun. I was trying to make a fire, but it wasn't working. Stella began barking as a shadow emerged from the trees. It looked like an orangutan, but before long it went back into the forest. Then I smelled smoke and saw a glow amongst my pile of leaves. I had a fire! The fire grew larger, so I collected more twigs and branches from the forest to keep it going. But when I returned from the forest, the flames had disappeared. I saw an orangutan scooping sand onto the fire. Then, as he stood up and came towards me, I realized that he was not an orangutan at all. He was a man.